Jemima.
And my name is Kyla, and today we will be presenting our science fair project on the effects of non-ionizing radiation on plant growth.
A few days before deciding our project, we had read an article about NASA's new plans of colonizing Mars. From there we realized a slight issue. Food. How would we be able to grow fruits and vegetables? There's a lot of radiation in space. Now, of course, radiation in space is way different than what we have here accessible to us on Earth. From there, we decided a project based around the effects of radiation on plants and the safest way we could do it here in our home planet.
We started by deciding which plant to use. Radishes ended up being the superior choice due to their low maintenance and quick growing speed. This allowed us to focus more closely on the amount of growth and the amount of radiation.
Plants undergo a series of stages before reaching their full maturity, starting with seed germination. Seed germination is the process of a seed developing into a seedling. If placed in the correct settings with the right amount of sunlight and water, the embryo cells begin to enlarge. The seed coating breaks and slowly roots begin to grow.
From there, leaves begin to sprout out from the maturing plant, and it can now feed through the process of photosynthesis. This is the process where plants turn sunlight into food. Once the leaves are grown, plants become flowering, or the stage where plants grow flowers. In some cases, plants will also grow fruit. At this stage, they are fully mature plants and can begin seed dispersion.
There are two main types of radiation that we can find here on our Earth: ionizing and non-ionizing radiation. Non-ionizing radiation is often thought with a positive, non-harmful connotation. This type of radiation does not carry enough energy to ionize atoms or molecules. All of us are exposed to non-ionizing radiation on a daily basis, such as microwaves or the sun. However, non-ionizing radiation can destroy cells. To note, UV light on the higher spectrum is considered ionizing radiation. However, on the lower spectrum, as we used in our experiment, is considered non-ionizing. Ionizing radiation is a type of radiation with enough energy to alter the proton and electron balance in an atom. This creates ions, hence the name ionizing radiation.
Ultraviolet light, also known as UV light, is a form of non-ionizing radiation that is essential to all life on Earth. On Earth, UV light comes from the sun, which supplies essential vitamins to plant growth.
Ultraviolet radiation has a proven positive effect on seed germination. A study by Poria Sadigianfer, Mason Nazari, and Gunter Bax showed that when plant seeds were exposed to high levels of UV light for 8 hours and 12 hours, they had the most positive seed germination rates. This study suggests that the higher levels of non-ionizing radiation are actually beneficial to plant growth.
From our research, we developed our experimental design. We separated radishes into groups of 8 into each pot. We had 4 pots, and one of the pots had the plants that were radiated once every day. The other had plants that were radiated once every other day. Another had plants that were radiated once every week. And finally, we had a control plant, which was never radiated.
We used this plant light as our source of non-ionizing radiation. We radiated the plants for 30 minutes at a time, and we controlled the amount of water. We placed the plants in the same area, and we used this separate plant light, which mimics the results of the sun, so that we could truly control the amount of sunlight that each plant was getting. We radiated the plants with the regular sunlight plant light for 9 hours a day. We grew the plants for 30 days, consistently watering, radiating, and caring for them.
We developed our hypothesis after our background research and methodology were complete.
We had hypothesized that the plants being radiated once a week would grow to be the largest, and the plants radiated once a day would grow the least. This is because too much non-ionizing radiation would actually destroy the plant cells and prevent growth. However, plants being radiated in small chunks, such as once a week, would actually benefit from this radiation.
At the end of the growing period, we unrooted the plants and measured them from the roots up. However, something that was strange was that none of the plants had grown their bulb. It was only the roots and the leaves.
From the results we got, it was found that the radish plants radiated once a week had grown to be the largest from the 8 seeds that we had planted. 6 of them had germinated, and their average growth was 12.2 centimeters, as shown in this table here.
Our second largest growth was our controlled radishes, which were exposed to no radiation at all. They grew to an average of 10.02 centimeters. Following that were the plants radiated once every other day. 5 out of 8 of those plants had grown, and they had an average of 8.5 centimeters of growth.
Our worst plants in growth rate were the radishes that were radiated every single day. Only one of the 8 seeds had grown, and it grew about 9.4 centimeters.
Next to our table is a pie chart and a graph to give a visualization of our data. Right here on our pie chart, we have the total average of the plant's growths versus the individual average.
In our bar graph is the growth of each plant frequency shown visually. Below that here are the images of each of the plants at the end of the 30-day growing period. Starting here, these were the plants radiated once every other day, the plants radiated once a day. The plants that were never radiated are control, and at the top are plants radiated once a week with the most amount of growth.
In our experiment, we tested the effects of non-ionizing radiation on plant growth. Based on our research, we hypothesized that the plants radiated once a week will grow to be the tallest, followed by the plants never radiated, then once every 2 days, and then finally once every day.
Our hypothesis was proven correct.
As stated before, too much non-ionizing radiation typically has a positive connotation. However, non-ionizing radiation can sometimes destroy cells. The radishes radiated every day were exposed to too much radiation, causing 7 out of 8 plants to not grow at all.
However, the non-ionizing radiation did have some benefits. What we noticed was the radishes being radiated once a week flourished. This suggests that the non-ionizing radiation does in fact benefit plant growth, but only in the small chunks.
Our experiment was well executed and controlled. However, there was a few sources of error. For instance, the bulbs of the radishes did not actually grow. It was only the roots and the leaves, as I stated before.
If we could redo this experiment a second time, we would space out the radishes a bit more. We believe that the bulbs of the radishes did not grow because of the spacing. The plants were placed in small, tiny pots, and they did not have enough room to grow.
Special thanks goes to our parents for their ongoing support, Dr. Garcia, our science fair coordinator, and Ms. Schmidt for the article that sparked this project.
Thanks for listening!